I've been paying for cloud storage for nearly 10 years. That's over £1,000 just to store my files on somebody else's computer. But this costs just £50 for the same storage. So why don't we just use these? Well, they've got two massive problems. And while trying to figure out my storage solutions, I think I've found a third option, one that could save thousands. So the problem with these drives is that when they fail, and they will fail, the data on them is wiped out. Your photos, your documents, your projects, gone. And the second problem, with it installed inside your desktop computer, it's locked inside that one machine. Your other devices can't access the files on it. Now, cloud storage can solve both of those problems. Your files are backed up across multiple servers and any device can access them. And so cloud storage fees start to sound reasonable, but you're renting every month forever. And as soon as you stop paying, you lose access to all your files. So the hard drive is cheap but fragile, whereas the cloud is flexible yet expensive. But what if you could combine the best of both of these? Well, you can. It's called a NAS, and I'm gonna build one. NAS stands for Network Attached Storage. It's a fancy name for a simple concept, a small computer with multiple drives connected to your network. Any of the devices can access it, just like the cloud. But here's the key, with multiple drives backing each other up, if one drive fails, you don't lose anything. The other drives have copies. And building a NAS is simple. You can buy one ready-made to just drop your hard drives in, or you can build one from standard computer parts, which is exactly what I'm gonna do. And these are just generic budget-friendly options, but I'm missing one important thing, a case. And this is where my build gets interesting. So while there are plenty of cases out there, I'm looking to resolve my storage solutions not only now, but in the future, which means I need the capacity to expand. So I'm looking for a case with up to 10 drive bays. And these are really expensive, more than my entire computer parts combined, which means I've only got one option. I'm gonna design and 3D print my own case. Let's do it. So here's what I've come up with. 10 drive bays in 2 stacks at the front, fans mounted behind to pull in air over the drives, keeping them cool. The motherboard will go at the back, raised up on these standoffs to help airflow and aid cooling. But there's one problem with this design. My printer. It's too small to print the whole thing off in one go, so I'm going to need to break the case down into smaller printable elements. I've had this old Ender 3 for nearly 6 years now. The latest printers can print at 4 or 5 times the speed of this, and it's got a lot of printing to do. I'm hoping it can hold up. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've 3D printed some trial panels for my base. Now, the first reason for this is that I want to test out that my measurements are correct and my case is going to fit the PC parts that I've got. Let's try the motherboard. Right, hopefully the motherboard fits. Not quite. Off by a few millimeters. Well, that's why we test. I can easily tweak this. Now, because I've got these separate pieces, I need a way to connect them together, because otherwise they're not going to align properly and my computer parts won't fit. They may even just fall apart. So I'm thinking I need to update my design and add a way to slot these together. So 20-hour print later, I've got my first piece, but I can already tell this isn't going to work. In CAD, you can zoom in and these elements look like they're going to be big enough. However, now it's printed, I've realized they're just far too small. They're so small, I'm struggling to pull out the support material. Over the last few weeks, I've been going through a cycle of printing, testing, finding issues, redesigning, printing again. It's been pretty exhausting, but I've solved most of the issues now. The idea I had to slot the sections together just isn't going to work. I need to make the slots so big that the base becomes so thick that it uses so much material and it takes 3 days to print. So I've been looking at a better way to join these sections together, and I think I might have found something. It's called a tapered dovetail joint, and I think it's going to be perfect. So far, printing this case has just not been what I expected. Each print has taken over 20 hours and I've had loads of failed prints in between. I've spent weeks adjusting temperatures, re-leveling the bed, waiting hours for these prints to finish, only to find they've failed and having to do the whole process all over again. My Ender 3 takes constant tinkering and sometimes it just fails anyway. It's so frustrating. So while these two prints are not perfect, I have enough here to test out this new dovetail joint to see if it works. Perfect. Yeah, that's gonna work. Nice. I can also test out the newly designed slot. Now the fan holder. Oh, that slides nicely. Finally, I've completed all the pieces for the base. With all the printing issues and design tweaks I've had, it's taken me months to get this far. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting this built, because waiting for the rest of the case could take me another month or two to print. Once it's up and running, I can carry on printing the rest of the case to finish it up. Onto the base, I can place the motherboard, which fits perfectly. So now the CPU. This is just the £30 AMD Athlon. Nothing powerful is needed. What's great about this processor is it has built-in graphics, so I don't need to buy a separate graphics card. It also comes with a fan and a heatsink with thermal paste pre-applied. So for 30 quid, it's ticked off 4 different items. Bargain. Now the RAM. I've got a generic 8GB stick. I would have liked more, but with current prices, it's just not worth it. For the operating system, I'm going to install it on this 60GB SSD I pulled out of my Steam Deck when I sizes. M.2 SSDs come in a variety of different sizes. The motherboard has several mounting points to account for this, but this one is unusually small and there isn't a mounting screw close enough for this size. So I printed this bracket to help extend it. Now it fits perfectly. For the hard drives, I'm going to start with these 3 1TB drives I've got to hand, but I've already ordered some more larger drives, which I'll add as soon as they arrive. As a NAS is always on, it's important to buy drives built specifically for NAS use. Otherwise, the drives won't last nearly as long and you'll be buying replacements frequently. Western Digital Red and Seagate Iron Wolf are 2 well-known brands to look out for. Also, I'm going to need a power button. This should do the job. Alright, everything's installed. Let's see if it boots up. Yes. No. Right, something's not happy. It could be that the RAM isn't seated properly, so let's try the other slot. The other slot is blocked by the CPU fan. I'll sort that out. Okay, let's see if that's fixed it. Nope, that wasn't the issue. The only thing I haven't tested is this power button. I've looked into it and I've realised the way this switch works means that when I press the button and it clicks in, the motherboard reads this as if I'm holding the button down. And if you hold a power button down, the system thinks you want to shut it off. So it powers on, then immediately reads a shutdown command and kills the power. So to fix it, I should be able to press the button to turn it on, then press it again immediately to release the button. Hopefully, this is going to sort the issue. A full day of troubleshooting and it was just the button. Okay, so the computer posts into the BIOS. This means that the hardware's working. Now we've got to figure out the software and install an operating system. The operating system I'm using is TrueNAS. It's free, open source and designed specifically for storage servers. To get it installed, I need to flash the ISO to a USB, plug it into my NAS and boot from the BIOS. By logging into TrueNAS on my desktop, I can set up my system and configure RAID. RAID is the system that protects my files if a drive fails. Right now, I've got 3 1TB drives, so theoretically, I've got 3 TB of total space. With RAID, a portion of each drive is reserved, so you've got backup space distributed across all the drives. So if any drive fails, there's enough space across the other drives for that failed drive's data. So this means I have 2 TB of usable storage. While RAID means you do lose some capacity, you gain that ability to protect your files, which is so worth it. Now, to test this is all up and running, I'm going to open up my files on my desktop, log into the NAS, and drag over some files to drop onto the NAS. And on the NAS dashboard, I can look at how fast these files are transferring. Wow, 350 megabytes upload, that's not bad. And over on my laptop, I should be able to see those same files, just like cloud storage. There they are. I'll open one up and we can see what the download speeds are like. 80 megabyte download is pretty good, that's very usable. With the NAS up and running, we can compare the cost of building one with cloud storage fees. At the moment, my NAS has 2 TB of storage, which is typical for a standard cloud plan, which costs about £8 a month. A hard drive typically lasts about 5 years. It could be less, it could be more, but that's a good starting point to compare. Paying your monthly cloud storage fee for 5 years costs nearly £500, whereas my NAS costs just over £200 to build. So even at this scale, that's half the price and can save you hundreds of pounds. But the real savings come when you scale up. Filling all 10 bays with 8 TB drives will cost around £1,500 and give me around about 70 TB of storage. Whereas cloud storage for a similar amount will cost you between £50 and £150 a month. That could be £5,000 for 5 years, which means building a NAS could save you literally thousands. And while this is a great solution, it isn't perfect. There's a couple of situations to be aware of. And NAS will protect your data when a hard drive fails. But if you have multiple fail at the same time, a fire, a flood, maybe a break-in and someone steals the whole thing, you may lose all your files still. So if your data is truly irreplaceable, family photos, critical documents, it's good to have a backup in a second location. Or with the bulk of your storage now moved over to the NAS, those critical files could fit on a small or free cloud plan. Either way, you've massively reduced the cost you're paying for your subscription fees for cloud storage. While my NAS is up and running and saving me money already, I've still got weeks of printing to get my case finished, so I'm going to get on with that.